Hi folks, Jack Spirko here. For those of you watching the video feed, I am indoors today not due to anything with the weather. It is gorgeous out there. The issue is time sensitivity. I have got a ton of stuff to do this week and a ton of stuff to do today because I'm getting ready for my presentation at the Greater Reset Wednesday evening. So I have literally no spare time this week. Not that I generally have an abundance of it, but I figured at the beginning of this episode I would remind you the Greater Reset, if you're watching the video the day this was published, starts this evening. If you're listening to it on the weekly recap on Saturday or Sunday, well, it's already over, but you can catch all of the stuff that was done with the Greater Reset on the Conscious Resistance channels, which I'll make sure once it's all over to make sure my people know about. But it'd be great if you tuned in live, and myself and I, will be presenting Wednesday evening on protein production in your backyard using small livestock and aquaculture. And we're doing this because we really believe that the Great Reset, coming from the World Economic Forum, can only be resisted through people working together and learning how to do business and commerce with each other, learning how to produce their own food, learning how to build strong community. In other words, we can only do this through education and a conscious resistance, which is a great name for the organization behind it, a conscious resistance through community level action. If you try to resist this with typical politics, you might as well try to stop a millstone while giant Clydesdales are spinning it around and you're down in the mill. You're going to get rubbed out. So, be part of the Greater Reset beginning this evening. There'll be a link where you can learn more about that in the video notes below. Today I want to talk to you, though, about one component that we're very interested in teaching people at the Greater Reset, and that is cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency allows you to do business with other people with no third-party intermediary, other words, no bank. No bank, and like if people say, well, what if I use cash? Well, then you're using the United States Department of Treasury if you're using the US dollar, right? Just see a third-party intermediary there. Cryptocurrency allows people to have trust in technology and therefore use an accounting ledger. That's the best way to think about it, to exchange value for value with nobody else involved. Isn't that great? However, I've got a lot of people interested in cryptocurrency because you can make money by buying and holding cryptocurrency. And you can. It's worked out really well for me and many other people. People like me were telling you to do this back in like 2012, 2014. 2014 is when I really got on the train with, hey, you really should put some money into this. And of course, we were all told that we believed in tulip mania and other bullshit. And, we're talking about like a decade now, and people are still waiting for it to die, and it's not happening. However, it is volatile. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down, especially the big dog of the pack, Bitcoin. It can do this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And for those on the audio only, my hand's making up and down waving motions, right? So how do we take that seeming disadvantage and turn it into our advantage? How do we turn a problem into a solution? What a lot of people advocate when it comes to investing in cryptocurrency, specifically something like Bitcoin, or pick a few coins and average between them, is the old technique of dollar cost averaging in the stock market. This is good and bad. It can be a fool's errand. And the reason it can be a fool's errand is the way that investment advisors sell you on this concept when it comes to the stocks and mutual funds or whatever is just invest every month. If you have $100 a month to invest, just give it to me and I'll make sure it goes allocated into your funds. Or your 401k or whatever, your money just rolls in. Every contribution, it rolls in and it divides up against the allocation that you have. However, if you were to look at the stocks that you're investing in or the individual funds that you're investing in with that model, you would see that during the month they have quite a bit of fluctuation up and down. Now, there's what's called the fool's chase. The fool's chase is trying to exactly time tops and exactly time bottoms. That almost never works. What we want to do is determine tops and bottoms, pull back a little from both, and use those to do what I call, because this term's used in trading a lot of other ways, and specifically using options. And I'm not talking about options today, but collaring, which means we're trading on both sides. And so the way that I buy Bitcoin, and because I conduct an online business and I receive payments in cryptocurrency, and I'm involved with things like Library and other platforms where I've tipped in cryptocurrency, etc., I have money that comes in monthly, weekly, daily, that's in the form of cryptocurrency that may or may not be in Bitcoin. Generally, not always, but generally that money goes to an account that I have on an exchange, and it becomes my trading money, even though I don't really consider what I do trading. It's really a form of buying. It's like dollar cost averaging on steroids. But this is what I've been doing for years, and it's worked out very well. And I've never really lost, right? Ever. Because if you're patient with something that's this volatile, it usually comes around one way or another. It doesn't mean that I've always exactly hit the tops and bottoms, but that's why we build a buffer in there. So it works like this. So I'll get a given amount of money onto my exchange account, let's say $800. And that'll be divided up amongst money that came in the form of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is still my primary reserve, and I've talked about why before. And then some of it will be in other altcoins. If I am buying an alt at that point, this strategy will alter slightly. I'll let you figure it out. Maybe I'll come back and talk about it in another episode. I can't. I just want to talk about just Bitcoin today to keep this simple. So let's say that I get in a cryptocurrency like LBC coin, which is library tokens, which I'm tipped in. So I get a significant amount of those weekly from you guys who watch my videos over on Odyssey instead of here on Screw YouTube. So I'll take those, and when they come in, if library's sitting at like 4 cents, I'll just let it sit there. But I get it off library. The part that I want to take to myself every week, I get it off. I unlock it and I move it over. So it's ready to trade quickly. So I don't have to wait for it to get onto the exchange. So it's sitting there. Right now, and I don't want you to take investment advice on this, but I've kind of decided that when LBC coin is in the 11 to 12 cent range, it's a good time to cash out on it. So when it hits that range, or right away, I'll go ahead and put in what's called a limit order, and that's the key to everything I'm talking about today. I'll say sell LBC when it's at 11.5 cents and trade it to USD Tether, right, the US dollar coin. And it'll sit there in Tether. Well, once it's in Tether, then I'll look at Bitcoin, and I'll say, what do I see as kind of the low point for the next few weeks? Where do I think the bottom is going to be? And if I thought the bottom was, let's say, $31,000, which was a recent prediction, I might set my buy at $31,500. And I might watch Bitcoin come down within 15 to 10 bucks of that number several times and start to lose my patience. But let the system do the work. And eventually, when it falls through there, that buy order will trigger. This is versus a market buy where you just pay what it's selling for now. And it'll buy that Bitcoin. And now I have Bitcoin. At the other side of that, this money is not my major holdings in cryptocurrency. This is monthly income converted into buying and trading cryptocurrency for a time. I will also say, I think kind of up here is the top for Bitcoin in the next few weeks. And I'll put in all the Bitcoin that came in, or all that's been converted to Bitcoin during this cycle, up for sale with a limit order. And if I think the top is, let's say, 41.5, don't use these numbers. I'm just giving you examples. 41.5, maybe I'll be at like 39.9. That's where I want you to sell. That's where I want the exchange to sell, also back to USDT. So let's say that we've in this hypothetical cycle, we hit the low point, and that sold my USDT Tether, and now I'm sitting on Tether down here. All right. I'm sorry. All right. Too much going on. That's why I'm trying to keep this one. I've gone ahead and I've sold my library tokens to Tether, which is the stable coin, the dollar coin. I now have a buy-in for Bitcoin at that low price. If it hits, I'll take that and I'll move it to the sell side and sell it with the rest of the Bitcoin at that high point. If that triggers and sells, I'll execute the whole process over again. I'll determine a new bottom in the short term, and I'll put in here to buy it back. Now, this is not large amounts of money. This is going to range between $500 and $1,500. It doesn't make a huge difference in how much money you made in that 2 or 3 week cycle. But what it does is it just makes the amount of the underlying currency. You can do this with anything, not just Bitcoin. It just makes the underlying amount of the currency that you're able to eventually acquire a little bit higher. But if you do it over and over and over and over again, and when you have a currency with a lot of volatility in it, like Bitcoin, there's almost always within a few week cycle a fairly easy to predict kind of top line, bottom line. And again, when we pull in from those a little bit, and what is the worst thing that could happen? Well, the worst thing that could happen is Bitcoin falls way through my bottom price. So what? I'm still better off than if I just switched everything to Bitcoin when it was at its highest point. Or Bitcoin runs through its high point after I've sold. So what? We're talking about a few hundred to a couple $1,000. Right? I can wait for it to come back down. I can go ahead and accept that I have defeat, and buy a little higher or whatever. But eventually, in each of these cycles, what happens is if I can pair that twice back and forth and then cash into Bitcoin or whatever currency I'm buying in this cycle, then it comes off the exchange. And then the whole cycle starts over. New money comes in. Now, for you, that might be money that you're depositing from US dollars, or that might be money that the best case scenario is you're receiving cryptocurrency from actions that you're taking. So you're either selling something or you're doing something where people are paying you in crypto. That is the best way to do this. That's what I do. I'm not taking any money out of my bank account to do this. And every time that cycle completes and that money moves off the exchange, it doesn't come back. On rare instances, there may be a time where I find a new altcoin that I'm really excited about. I want to own some. I may take some money from that reserve and use it to buy. But in general, I'm running a couple flips like that. I'm just putting a little bit more Bitcoin or a little bit more R, a little bit whatever it is away, and then off it goes and then the cycle repeats. This is a very safe way to do things. And if you think about it, so what that means is at any given time, 99% of my holdings are off exchange. They're in private storage. They are disconnected from any ability of anybody to hack or anything like that. But they're also in a place where it takes effort for me to spend it or trade it to help me with my own personal discipline. Because the biggest problem you'll find if you try to start getting into cryptocurrency is personal discipline. Is being willing to say, look, yeah, I know I set that price there. There's a reason I set that price there. I know that it came down and it almost touched it like 5 times, and I'm tempted to raise it a little bit. Then you come off your system, you come off your gain. And the longer you do this, the better you'll get at it. The better you'll get at it. One of my recent low-end buys was when Bitcoin was in the mid-30s and it was at 31.5. And it ran way up, right? And I had posted this publicly that was the collar on my low side of the buy. It took a couple of weeks, came right back down, and boom, it triggered right about there. Now, it did fall through down to like 29, but I didn't need the bottom. I just needed lower. And then, when we had that opportunity, we moved it over and we moved it out. This is the way to think about this. This is like all the videos that you'll listen to by crypto experts. They never talk about simplistic shit like this. They always talk about like these complex trading strategies. And I'll tell you something about complex trading strategies. If you get really good at them, you can make a lot of money with them. Most people do not have time to sit there all day long, every day trading cryptocurrency. And it doesn't make sense for most people to do that. All we're talking about here is a little small modification to dollar cost averaging so that we're not inadvertently paying the highest price we possibly can for a security, a stock, a cryptocurrency, anything in the month of, let's say, January. And we're probably not going to pay the lowest price, but we're going to pay a lower price, and we're going to sell at a higher price than we would have otherwise. That's it. And it's not that hard. And if you just have pattern recognition and take a look at the pricing over a month, a week, a day of a crypto, it's not that hard to figure out. It really isn't. You will be wrong sometimes. And when you start, you'll be wrong more often than you're right. That's why we need to sequester a given amount of money to do this with. And like I said, what is the worst thing that happens? The worst thing is that we sell and we don't get a very short-term buyback opportunity. Or we buy and it falls through that floor, but we would have already paid more for it. Do you see how that works? It's not complicated. It's actually really easy. And I'm going to tell you just one last thing about this. All of your so-called financial advisors that don't do this with your money, with all your stock market, your 401k, your IRA, all that shit, they should all lose their freaking license. Because this is basic common sense investing 101. And anybody without enough acumen to do this on a regular basis with regular contributions from their clients has no business being a financial advisor. That's another video altogether. When it comes to crypto, guys, yes, dollar cost average, but, add this little factor in there. Be smart about it. Don't be paying $50,000 for Bitcoin when a week later you can pay $35,000 for Bitcoin. That's all I'm saying. Take care.